Let me tell you about the day I buried my father and the day he came back asking for money. I'll wait. You ready? Good. It all started with a funeral. And yes, I know, that already sounds dramatic, but this wasn't a tasteful, quiet, respectful funeral. This was the kind of funeral where everyone cries a little too loudly, hugs a little too tightly, and somehow manages to make someone else's death about themselves. My father's coffin sat at the front of the room, closed, polished, heavy. The kind of heavy that convinces you nothing inside could ever move again. People whispered things like he was such a good man and gone too soon, which was interesting, considering half of them barely knew him. I stood there in a black dress I borrowed because I didn't own funeral-appropriate clothing at the time. I was 23, emotionally underqualified for grief, and still convinced adults knew what they were doing. My mother, though, oh, she knew exactly what she was doing. She cried beautifully. I mean that.
Her sobs were timed.
Her gasps were theatrical. At one point, she almost collapsed into a chair, and two distant relatives rushed to support her like backup dancers who hit their cue perfectly. Everyone adored her. She's so strong, they whispered. She gave everything for her daughter, someone said. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? That was my mother. The woman who raised me, protected me, sacrificed everything. The grieving widow. That was the story. And for years, I lived inside it. Life moved on in that strange, uneven way it does after loss.